So you may have heard the word self-love floating around quite a bit online, and you may be wondering, what exactly is self-love? Why is everyone talking about it? And why is it important to my spiritual and personal development? Well, self-love is the act of unconditionally loving ourselves regardless of external circumstances. And these circumstances and conditions may include how beautiful we may look, how much money we have in the bank, how many friends we have, or how successful we are. These circumstances and conditions are totally irrelevant to whether or not we are worthy of love, namely our own love. Self-love is the act of showing compassion and care for our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual aspects of ourselves. It's the act of wholly and unconditionally accepting all parts of who we are. And I know that may sound like a lot or a huge endeavor, but I promise you it is entirely possible. I remember around 5-6 years ago when I was working with a therapist, I remember talking to her in a very defeatist tone, telling her, I just don't think self-love is for me. I don't think I can do it. I think maybe it's for other people with more stable and happy childhoods, but certainly not for me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And if you may be feeling this way, I promise you it couldn't be further from the truth. Self-love is the most important act that we can commit to in this lifetime because it is from this place of love for ourselves where all good things flow. We have jobs and relationships and situations in our lives that mirror this love and respect that we have for ourselves. When we don't love ourselves, we may enter into toxic relationships or friendships. We may stay in jobs that don't respect us or value us for far too long. We may engage in unhealthy or toxic habits and lifestyles that harm us in the long run. So this is a very crucial practice and commitment that we can make to ourselves. You may be wondering, like I did 6 years ago, why does self-love feel so impossible? Why does it feel so elusive? And the reasons for this have nothing to do with your inherent worthiness and everything to do with your past and your childhood. Oftentimes as children, we are not properly shown unconditional love. Love may be withheld or given based on how we behave or perform in front of our caregivers, our parents, our teachers, our communities. And therefore we're taught that love is not something that we can freely and easily receive from the people that we love so dearly. And so we take these beliefs from our childhood that maybe we are inherently unlovable, and they become beliefs that start to drive the actions and the life that we experience as adults. But the good news is that this does not have to be a life sentence. We can learn to love ourselves again, and we can remove the blocks to loving ourselves. There's this famous Rumi quote that goes, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." And this quote is so profound and relevant to the process and deep spiritual journey of learning to love ourselves again, because we realize that love is our inherent state and it's our birthright. Alright, so let's get into it. How does one actually learn to love themselves? The first step is the most important one, and that is learning to connect and reparent your inner child. Our inner child is very much still alive within us. Our inner child is the source of our joy, our wonder, our creativity, our innocence, our purity. But they also carry within us a lot of hurt and woundedness from our childhood, the ways in which we may not have properly received love from our parents or our caregivers. So that's why this step is so important, is to go back to our childhood and reconcile those moments of pain and hurt, stepping in as this new adult self that we are, and committing to our inner child that we will not leave or abandon them, that we are here to stay with them for the rest of our lives, to love and protect them. And I know this may seem like a big undertaking, but it is the most important step to establishing ourselves as someone with agency. When we learn to love our inner child, we learn to love the most wounded and vulnerable parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that need our love the most. I recommend many different practices and techniques to connect with your inner child, but a simple one to get started is to simply start dialoguing with your inner child. Journal and write letters to your inner child and write from the perspective of your inner child as well. See what kind of messages you may get, what kind of experiences or hurts they may still be holding on to, and perhaps what do they need from you as your adult self right now. So step number 2 is to release and remove the energetic and emotional blockages we may still be carrying in our bodies. These blockages prevent the love from flowing freely within us and prevent us from feeling love for ourselves. These blockages are often rooted in past experiences and repressed emotions that we may still carry within our energetic and physical bodies. It's really important to engage in somatic release, energy healing, things like yoga, breath work, deep states of meditation to allow ourselves to open up and naturally release these energy blockages and emotions, which will allow us to return to a state of equilibrium and love, which is our inherent state. Step number 3 is to start to take stock of the limiting beliefs you may still be carrying and work to transform them. We all carry limiting beliefs that may have been imprinted upon us in our childhoods or in significant life events. These beliefs range from not feeling lovable, not feeling good enough, not feeling deserving of love and goodness. And they often prevent us from feeling worthy and feeling love for ourselves. So one way to start to tackle this is to make a list of all of the limiting beliefs you may still carry. And what I like to do is just stream of consciousness write down all of the beliefs that I think I may still be carrying. They may range from, I just don't think I'm good enough, or I don't think I'm deserving of abundance. And I allow myself to write down whatever comes to mind. And from there, I have inventory of what I want to tackle and transform. From there, I like to write the opposite of what I wrote down as my limiting belief into a positive and affirming belief. And this belief could be, I am worthy of love. I am deserving of goodness in my life. I am deserving of my own love. And really commit to the practices that imprint these beliefs into my subconscious. And you can do this through any number of ways, such as affirmation work, mirror work, or breath work, any activity that allows you to access the subconscious mind and reprogram it with positive affirming beliefs in order to replace the negative ones that you may still be carrying from childhood. The 4th step to learning how to love ourselves is learning how to befriend our inner critic. It's a very universal experience that we all share of having an inner critic in our heads that is constantly judging or criticizing ourselves. So for instance, maybe you spill a glass of water and your inner critic immediately jumps in and says, oh my gosh, I am so clumsy. What is wrong with me? I need to learn to be more coordinated. This voice does nothing but belittles you and makes you feel worse about yourself. And you may be wondering, how in the world do I get rid of this voice? The ways in which we learn to silence this voice is not to actually reprimand or repress this voice. It's actually to befriend the voice, showing compassion for that inner critic within us and acknowledging that at one point in our lives they served a purpose, which was to protect us. When we learn to show compassion and love for that voice, we lessen its role in our lives. So the next time that you hear this inner critic emerge in your head, you can actually just send it love and thanks and say, actually, this is not true and this is not how I feel about myself. It's okay that I spilled this glass of water, or it's okay that I'm running late. Replacing that critical voice with a voice of compassion and understanding. And lastly, one last piece of advice I'd like to share is to remain detached from your material self. The material self is a spiritual concept. It's a version of yourself that is anchored in your ego, personas, personalities, identities that have nothing to do with who you actually are. Who you actually are is your higher self, this connection to God, to Source, to Spirit. And the more that you're able to connect with your higher self, the more you're able to let go of these lower vibrational beliefs of not being good or worthy or deserving of love. The higher self knows that he or she is so worthy and so deserving and so whole. I genuinely hope this video was helpful and supportive. I know that the journey of learning to love ourselves is not an easy task, but it is, in my opinion, the most important and impactful journey and commitment that we can make to ourselves. So if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave me a message.